Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Michael Burke with Interdyne BMI. Thank you for attending today's webinar, Understanding the Basics of Microsoft SharePoint. This session will be led by Jeff Allison, Microsoft SharePoint Technical Consultant at Interdyne BMI. Jeff is a certified SharePoint developer that's been working with the software as an administrator, consultant, and developer since 2007. Now, if you have any questions during today's presentation, please use the chat feature or the raised hand icon that's located on the dashboard on the right-hand side of your screen. We will have some time for Q&A with Jeff at the end of today's webinar in case we don't cover the question as it comes in. Also, if you have any difficulty with viewing the presentation or demo, send a message in and we will do our best to solve the issue. And with that, that should cover all the housekeeping, so take it away, Jeff.
Welcome, everybody. So today, I just want to go through and try and explain a little bit what is Microsoft SharePoint. If you talk to different people that have used SharePoint, you might get several different answers. So hopefully I'm going to try and clear some of those up. And we're really going to go through a lot of live demo here. I don't really want to bog everybody down with a bunch of PowerPoint slides, so bear with me a few slides here and we will get to the live demo in just a little bit. We're going to explain, go through some of these features and different versions of SharePoint. Then we're going to do the demo and we'll talk a little bit about SharePoint 2016 and what to expect in the future, and we'll follow that up with the Q&A. So Microsoft SharePoint, it really is a browser-based system. It works on most of the common browsers: Internet Explorer, Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Edge. From time to time, you might even see some things in certain browsers might not work. And what I typically use, I'll use maybe Chrome for a while, and if I run into an issue or something, I'll switch over to IE. But in general, most things are working really nice in Internet Explorer, but every once in a while you will find something that, hey, it's not working as expected, so I'll switch over to a different browser type and things work out just perfect. It's also an intranet or an extranet, meaning that in intranet, it works on your internal network, and you can expand this to include your external customers as well, your clients if you wanted to. In the past, I would have said that this was also an intranet type of product. The thing there is Microsoft has really changed this product so that it really isn't a internet-facing development platform so much anymore. They're kind of getting away from that, so think of this more as an internal representation of your internal systems. As far as collaboration, this is the main focus of SharePoint. This is the idea here is it's a centralized place where everyone in your organization can find, share, and access files or content. Content includes your files, any Word documents, Excel, PowerPoint, text files, images, video files, any other type of files that you might find even buried on your hard drive that SharePoint can help bring those to the forefront. It also includes just simply data in a list. We're going to take a look at that in a second, but really content can include just about anything you can identify as an object. SharePoint also, the core of SharePoint now really utilizes a really powerful search engine. The search system continuously will crawl your data. It not only looks at the titles or names of your files, but actually the content and the metadata inside of those files. Once it's collected that information, it becomes available in search results, navigation, and different screen components. We're going to try and take a quick look at that as well. SharePoint also supports fairly robust workflow. Workflow is something that it does process in the background, which is usually triggered by some event, like adding or changing a document in a list. Maybe you want to be alerted to the fact that somebody's added a new document to the list, and you'll get an email. Maybe there's some sort of approval process you want to happen. If somebody makes a change to a document, you want to be alerted so you can approve that change to a document. So all those things are part of the SharePoint engine. It also has now social components. So Microsoft, they made a really big effort to include a social aspect. They purchased the Yammer product years ago and they've merged it into the environment. Think of Yammer as an internal messaging type of system, almost like a Facebook type post. We'll see that briefly as well in some of these lists. They just wanted to expand the idea of having a social aspect inside of your organization. Also, business intelligence. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this. There's many features available in SharePoint, but this one's becoming more and more common. In the past, it was a large enterprise operation that really had the data captured that could utilize BI. But nowadays, smaller businesses are able to track inventory and transactions just as easily. And now that they have that data, we need a way to represent that data in a quick and easy format. So SharePoint has really gone on and created this really nice format for SharePoint for business intelligence, which includes Excel services, Power Pivot, and the Power Pivot charts are displayed in Performance Point dashboards and Power Views. We're going to take a quick little look at that as well. As far as cloud, on-premise, and hybrid, these are the different flavors nowadays that SharePoint comes in. There's an on-premise set of versions, SharePoint, where all the components live on servers inside your network. These include Foundation, Standard, and Enterprise. We're going to take a quick look at that. The cloud is usually referred to now as either online, cloud, or Office 365. So we're going to take a little look at that. And in my demo, I have both versions available here that we're going to look at. We're going to see what it looks like in the cloud, and we're going to see what it looks like on-premise type of version. And there's also a hybrid alternative now where, and this is more and more becoming the focus of Microsoft, where they want you to have your data in both places. You will see that the search engines are starting to crawl your content in both places and make it available in more and more aspects of your environment. So we're going to try and take a quick look at that as well. And more yet, there's plenty of more features available besides these core components. It really depends on which version of SharePoint you have. For example, an on-premise version allows developers to do just about anything behind the scenes in code because they have that ability to modify the data and give you a different presentation. They can create web parts and app parts and things like that. They also have the ability to get your backend data from SQL and pull that into the forefront so you can enjoy that inside of your SharePoint environment. So we're going to keep going here. So this is the last slide before our demo, so we're going to get through this. So content is your data, your files, or your list items. The most common features in SharePoint are the lists and libraries. So you can create pretty much any number of lists and libraries. A list you can think of is just something that contains its items that include some data. Think of a row of data in maybe an Excel spreadsheet. Each row is like a list item. A library in SharePoint is also a list, but that includes generally a file or a document in that list. Versions are now available in SharePoint so that you can keep track of your previous versions. So if you've made a change and you want the changes to be historical, you can go back and you can see how things have changed to each of your documents in the past. Collaborative live editing is a nice new feature that they've added. Using the online tools, you can now simultaneously edit the exact same document inside of SharePoint. So if you are maybe attending a live meeting or something with a group of people and everybody opens up the exact same Word document, you can see each other kind of making changes to that document in real time. So not everybody needs to check the file out and save it back up to the server. You can actually see and work on the exact same document at the same time, which is a really, really neat little tool. It's a little hard to show in a demo when you're by yourself, but trust me, it is there. It's a really great feature that's part of this. So, and that is part of the integration with the Office suite, of course. That gives you your Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and all those other features. And search, of course, is a major component of SharePoint. It's hidden behind the scenes, but it's a very, very powerful aspect, and I'm going to try and bring that to the forefront here so you can see it a little bit. And another feature that's very common is records management. SharePoint does have some records management features. Archival methods, records retention rules, auto-disposing of files. anything that could be used for your records compliance. It's a totally separate suite, but it is part of the feature set. Change screens here, and we're going to jump over to our live demo.
And we did have a few questions that we can maybe address before we jump into the demo.
Sure.
So there was one, this was previous. So what you're saying is Microsoft products don't work well in the Microsoft browser?
It's very interesting. The Edge browser, if you want to call it that, I'm finding SharePoint doesn't behave very well in the Edge browser just yet. Now, the Office 365 platform, what they're doing in the cloud, they are continuously updating that product, and it's always going through, and you don't even know when the updates come across. The on-premise, it's a little bit slower with the updates, but they are continually putting out their service packs and updates. And things behind the scenes start to modify the behavior inside the browser. So as a developer, I can actually go in and I can make a few changes, and that sometimes can cause features to not work in the browser. And different settings on the web pages can somehow conflict with the different browsers depending on which screens and sites and things like that. So I wouldn't want to say that no, IE, it doesn't work in IE. That's not true. It works very clean in IE. It's just the odd time, from time to time, there's a few little glitches where you might see something that doesn't work. I'll switch over to a different browser and the product will work just fine. So it's just an odd occurrence when that happens.
Great, thanks for covering that. We got two more. So Jeff, I saw that the Excel services / refreshable reports will be going away in 2016. Will Power BI be included in 2016?
Okay, we can get to that a little bit later, but it's not included as part of the Office 365 suite directly. It is an add-on purchase, but it is going to be part of that suite if you want to put the additional features in that suite. So we'll try and cover a little bit of that down the road here.
Awesome, and then we got just one more right now. So can online SharePoint connect to on-premise, and then it says SSAS yet? It might be software as a service, could be missing.
So not directly. There's a few things here that are going on. We're going to try and get to that as well, the hybrid piece here. I don't really have anything I can demo with that directly right now, but let's just say that they are increasing the hybrid connections between the two, and with the 2016 product, you're going to really notice that a lot more. Today, what I'm going to be demoing, this is the 2013. 2016 is still in the release candidate, so it's not in the final version yet. Is that good, Mike?
Yeah, that is.
Okay, so let's keep going here. Let's look at this. This one here is an on-premise SharePoint 2013 farm. It's just a basic site that I created. If you notice, this is just a web page. There's really nothing special about this at all, obviously. It's pretty blank. It's a home landing page. You can change the names and the title, and you can play with the colors a little bit and styles. The main focus here is what I wanted to get to is, let's just look at a simple list. So this here is, I'm calling this a simple list. It's just a row of list items, and again, you can think of this maybe like an Excel spreadsheet where you just have some list data, and you can put in some settings here. Hey, the color's black, country of origin here, this widget is Canada, and I have 32 of them. What you'll see is you can see the different list items in here. I'm calling this a simple list simply because I don't really have much metadata going on in the background, and it's just text fields here on this list. Up here in this little ribbon, this is where you'll find some of the controls that you can do with a list. Some of these things we wanted to highlight you can export your lists to Excel. You can open them with Access. You can kind of go in with InfoPath and you can customize a form. There's list settings in here. I'm going to click on the list settings. And when you have each individual list, you can change the permissions for your list. You can change your list name, your descriptions. Here's your versioning settings. This is what we talked about initially. You can have content approval for your list. So if somebody adds a new item to that list, you can automatically be notified that, hey, something's here, it's changed, and it's going to stay in a draft state, not available for your general user, your general viewers to see until you actually go and approve that change. Item version history, this is where you'll turn it on and you can say, hey, I want to keep the last 5 versions. So you have the ability to change that number to really whatever you want. The only drawback here is just it takes up more space on your system. So on your back-end system, all of this data stays in a SQL server in the background. It's very minor because it only keeps the change. It's not keeping massive file sizes, but just be aware that's really the only drawback to keeping this version history. In draft item security here, this it will allow you to change who can see the item when it's in a draft status. So from here, I'm going to go to a detailed list, and just to see the difference. In this case, this one looks the exact same. The only difference here, actually, and I'm going to say, I'm going to go back to this one. I'm going to say new item, and you can see these are text fields. So I can type in anything I want. It doesn't block me from what I'm typing in this list item. And if I go back to my detailed list, and I go to add a new item, I've changed these fields. These fields are not text entry fields. These are actually metadata fields. And this is a really nice feature inside of SharePoint. These are metadata fields where I select the tags that I want to use on my list items. And now these items are available, these metadata tags are available across the system. So not only are they available in this list, but they're available in other lists and other sites. And that really, it really ties into the search engine because now the search engine has something concrete to grab on. So when I search in my search engine for the color red, I can now focus on this metadata tag that is available, and the search results will be that much more enhanced. I'm going to do a quick showing of that term store that I'm talking about. This is the term store, and in here, this is something you can set up. And the idea here, these are pretty simple terms, so obviously you're not necessarily going to use these. What you would want in your term store is going to be really your business dependent type of terms. So if you have specialized terms in a taxonomy that you use every day and you want to identify your documents or your files with a certain tag or something like that, then you will want you'll want to be changing or adding your type of terms in here so that when people store their files, they can identify those files with your taxonomy. And again, it will really help down the road with the search results and the search engines so that you can find the files much better. Again, in a term store, this setting, what you want to do when you first set this up is really do a discovery internally. The recommended thing here is to have a few sessions with all of your internal users and your groups, maybe your department heads, and come up with a good taxonomy before you start populating SharePoint with all kinds of data. It's a lot easier to add this metadata and these tags to your files well before you start filling your system up. So for example, if I look at my simple list here, if I've gone and I've added all of these items into these lists and I haven't really added my metadata tags to them, going back later on I'd have to go to each one of these individual items and add metadata to it. Whereas if you have your taxonomy defined before you start populating your SharePoint system, then it will be that much more enhanced when you go to find these files, because finding files is always half the battle. if you relate this to your file explorer on your hard drive, you have that little search engine and you can find things based on the title. But if you don't necessarily know the title of your file you're looking for, it becomes very hard to find that data. So by adding some taxonomy terms and metadata terms to your files here, your list items, they will come up in the search results much, much better. Okay, so this is a quick, simple demonstration of just straight out of the box SharePoint lists. And I'm going to click on Simple Documents. Again, this one here is a list. It's a SharePoint list, but it has an actual document file attached to that list. Okay, there's nothing special about this list either. And if I click on Detailed Documents, it's another file, but now I've added some metadata fields to this Detailed Documents. One of the nice things about this, if I was to click on this, so again, I have these colors, red and the country of origin, Mexico. I can now filter these items based on, if I only want to see the Mexico documents, then I can click Mexico. If I want to see the Canadian documents, oh, there's none. So think of this, if you have, say, 10,000 documents in this list, now you can quickly sort and filter out these items based on just a simple tag. And you can keep going with the other tags inside of your metadata systems. There's another option in here too where you're allowed to change the views. You can create different views inside of SharePoint. Again, in this case, we're looking at all the items. We can change this view to see. I created a view earlier which I'm only going to see the red only items. Changing my view really quick, and now I've filtered it only by red. Again, if you have thousands and thousands of items in this list, it will really come up much faster, and you can sort your results and see them much easier, much faster. All right, so I'm going to jump over to a more advanced one. This is my Office 365 demo site. This is in the cloud. This one, this is basically the same idea. This is a landing page that I've added some web parts to, and I've kind of customized a little bit. On my left-hand nav, you can see I have different nav items, and you can customize this nav. Your navigation is very customizable. You can add different links, different sites, create different sites. In between the two, they're really very similar. The on-premise version and the Office 365 version, they're very, very similar. Most of these features work in both sites. So here, for example, before we get to the content on this page, we're just going to take a quick look. This is a very common thing. Inside of most organizations, they want to have lots of subsites and things, and maybe your main landing page will have general information, general announcements, but each of your departments, maybe they want to have their own site. Like HR might want to have its own site. The IT guys might want to have their own site. Inside of HR, maybe you have, your employee forms and things like that are available for everybody. So that's kind of why you would break it out into individual sites. And again, you can change the navigation links to make it easier to move around and to see. This little panel here, this is pretty much a default panel that shows up on all sites when you first create them, and you can quickly remove it and tailor your list by just clicking this remove, and it's gone. Here, while we're on this page, I'm going to jump down and we're going to look. This is this little Yammer post, this news feed. So this is part of the Yammer social piece that Microsoft has built into SharePoint so that now you can start having some social collaboration, and this is inside of your organization only. This is not external to the public, so nobody else can see this stuff. So when your employees are commenting or making something, saying something about your site or a document, it's internal to your users. I'm going to jump back to the demo site, and again, we can see I have IT listed here, and it's just an IT subsite. I could put this, again, pretty much anywhere on the navigation. This is another IT site. I don't really have much information on the site either, but you can see this is a different Yammer feed. This is for the IT site. Okay, so back on our demo site, we're going to look at, we're going to start with our standard document library here. Again, this is very similar to the on-premise site that we had just a minute ago. What I've done is I've added a standard folder here. So this is very similar to your File Explorer on your hard drive, and you create a folder and a subfolder, and then you start putting files inside of those folders. And pretty soon, when you try to find a file, it really gets messy. It's unorganized, and unless you remember where that path is, you have to tell somebody where to find this file. There isn't much information in here other than the title of the folder. That's the only thing that tells you what's going on. So SharePoint introduced this document set information. So here, again, I just have a standard folder. This one is just like that other document library. It's just a plain standard folder, but a document set folder now has some properties. And when I click on this document set folder, it will go inside of this document set, and I can add files inside of this document set. Now, the interesting thing here is when I view the properties of this document set folder, I set this document set folder to have country of origin and a color, so that now all of the documents that may go inside of this document set are already tagged Mexico or yellow. So that now, again, for searching and for finding information, you can now go and quickly find out what's going on inside of these folders and surface that data much, much faster. So this is a nice little feature that Microsoft has gone and added to the product. Again, this is available in the cloud and it's available on-premise. I'm going to jump over here to my widgets list. Again, this is just a simple SharePoint list. I've added some pictures. I have my country of origin. And I'm going to go up to the ribbon here. This is a standard Office ribbon. In this case, here there's an Alert Me button. So this is a very quick option so that if you want to be alerted, if somebody's added a new item to this list, you can click on this Alert Me and you'll get an automatic email saying, hey, something's happened, something's changed to this list, and here you go. And as you can see in the ribbon, you get pretty much the exact same type of options that were available in the on-premise version of SharePoint. So everything's looking the same. What I wanted to point out in this one, I have it set up in this one. I don't have it set up in my farm, but I could easily do it. I've added a workflow to this list. So in the background, I've got a workflow, and a workflow can be triggered, again, really you can set the workflow trigger occurrences. So if somebody adds a new item or edits an item or something changes in a site, that could start the workflow. And the workflow can be configured to do any number of things. And in this case, all I'm going to do with this workflow is, I'm going to start it here because it takes a second. All I'm going to do with this workflow is I'm going to take it and I'm going to fill in some list data into another side. So when I click on this sample widget workflow, I'm going to say start. And again, you wouldn't necessarily see that little start button if you set it to automatically trigger if somebody added an item to your list. In this case, I've got it set so that I'm manually triggering this workflow to go. And it starts and it runs in the background. Like everything else, sometimes it takes a minute or two to actually run. This one is set to automatically start going. And all it really does is it takes this new product date value and I just kind of fill it in this little thing with a little bit of text and the actual value. So it's just kind of proving that the workflow ran in the background, it did a process, and you can set data, you can move items, you can send out alerts, you can go through a full approval type process, all of those good little things that you would expect to see in some kind of workflow environment. Okay, so we're going to go back and click on, I want to go back to this list here one more time. So this is back on my on-premise farm, and this is a document list. And I wanted to show this one little piece here. If I hit this ellipse, very quickly I end up seeing a sample of this Word document. And if I click on, this is a PDF file, and if I do the same thing on the PDF file, again, I get to see the contents of that file without actually downloading it or opening that file. So this is a really handy little feature that they've added into SharePoint. So you don't need to open up every single document to see what's in it. You can actually just click on this little ellipse and you will see the contents of that file. So it will save you time down the road. This is an on-prem version, and if I do the same thing on my farm, this is the cloud version, I will see the exact same thing. So usually it takes a couple seconds to just do something to build the Office Web Apps piece in the background, but it will render your document and show it up in this little preview window. You do have the ability in these search results to actually change the view. That's a custom development piece, but you could actually change how you wanted it to show up. I'm going to click on this other document too. I wanted to highlight this one piece and show you the search. So if you look here, I have 3 Word documents. I have Top SharePoint Sales Tips, I have SharePoint 2013, and I have this other Word document that's listed content inside. And if we quickly just look at the Word Online, the preview just says this document contains the word SharePoint. And if I click on it, it does the same thing. It will open up the Word Online, and this is my document. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back into my demo site. You can see that the document title does not have SharePoint, but if I search my site for SharePoint, up pops everything that might have the word SharePoint in it, and I know I'm only looking for Word documents, so I'm going to result type this. I'm going to change my search down to just Word documents, and now look at this. I searched for the word SharePoint, and it found this document, this content inside document that has the word SharePoint. It's not in the title, but it's actually inside of that document. So that's a really powerful little feature of SharePoint that really tells you that search engine that's built into the background is very, very powerful. It's now pulling apart documents, and it's looking for the content, that metadata, all the different little things that you've set for your list items and the data inside of your documents. It's pulling it apart, and it's building an index database of these keywords so that when you now search for something like SharePoint, it will pull up these results in a nice little, again, these quick little preview windows off to the side. So that's a really, really powerful feature. Okay, so we're going to go back, and now a couple quick little things that SharePoint has added. Favorite color survey, so you can build quick little surveys to capture data. What's your favorite color? And you can customize any number of survey questions and how you want them to look. This is obviously you just choose a different button and you have some text fields. So you can change the surveys, capture the data. It will create little graphical responses. You can summarize the data. So it's a nice little app inside of SharePoint that is a quick feature. I'm going to jump down to this one here, HR submissions. This is a form. So InfoPath Forms is another utility that quickly allows you to create a nice looking submission form. So you can create any number of HR forms or any form that you want, capture some data, and then store it back into SharePoint in the list format. Okay, now let's get to kind of the big one here. This is the on this home page we're looking at here. All of these news roll-up items, these new widget products, even the special widgets. These are all individual web parts. This one here actually is a content query web part. The bottom one's actually a search web part, and I believe this one here is again a content query web part. This news feature here is actually pulling from a blogging site. So all I've done is I've taken my blog post and I've rolled it up to this home page. So since these titles here are hyperlinks, I can click on this and it will open up the actual blog post, and it takes me to my blog site. And now you can see, the full article. And again, Yammer, you can add in your comments to the bottom of your articles. It's a really nice little feature. So here, since now we're in the blog site, we're going to take a quick look at the blog site. Think about this. A blog site is nothing more than a list. It's just a list of items. So now you can control and create any number of items that you want to display, and using a rollup, you can display that on your homepage. So companies will use this for news, announcements, new products, maybe customer wins, maybe sales, any number of things you can think of you could use these roll-up items for. Categories is a nice little feature here. If I'm going to click on my site contents, I'm going to go to categories. You can change what type of categories that you want to classify your blog post as. So you can just add a brand new item. Maybe this is a company event or something like that that you want to put into your category list. And then when you create a blog post, you can select that category for your blog post. So back on the home page, as we add new blog postings, if I've set the news item roll up here to maybe only display the latest 3 news items, then the bottom news item would drop off and the next news item would appear at the top. And that's very customizable. You can set that to any number of items, just like this one over here, new widget products. I have a special widget. I have the widget 7, and again, these are all just roll-ups that are looking at data that's found in the background. One nice little feature as well, we've got the Excel online chart here. This is just a quick representation of an Excel document that I've added to the home page. So this document actually is found in the sample documents folder over here. So here's my monthly inventory count, and I'm just looking at a graph that was found on this file right here. So I'm just looking at this chart that was found on that file, and I'm displaying it on the home page. That is a really nice feature. Okay, so in addition to this, we're going to do the BI site. I know there was a question about the BI portion. This is still the Office 365. You do get a BI site collection included with Office 365. If you look at the site contents, this is out of the box what it creates for the site collection. And just like the on-premise version, you do get a sample Excel services workbook. The idea here is it gives you a sample document, and you can configure additional documents to kind of mirror what they've done with the sample. The trick here is obviously where do you get your data, because most people, they don't have their data online, and this is where Microsoft is expanding into the Power BI feature set. So it is more of an add-on to the SharePoint product for the Office 365 suite. It's not part of the out-of-the-box features. Now if I jump over to, so that's the cloud. Now I'm going to jump over, this is my on-premise version, okay, and I'm going to click on my BI site from the on-premise version. Looks very similar. It's almost the exact same. I've done some work in this one and I've added some things. So again, if I click on documents, here's that Excel services sample workbook. It's included out of the box, and I've added a few other files. But what I've done is I've actually configured. There's a lot of configuration that has to go on in the background. But once you get things configured just right, you can start adding all kinds of nice files. And the Power Pivot gallery chart, you can name it whatever you want, starts to become very, very powerful. It's a very visual tool. So you will end up creating your Power Pivot charts, and then one of the nice features here is hover over these. So you can open up the Excel workbook and look at it, but then they have this Create Power View Report. And a Power View Report, I've already got one created. I'm going to click on my Power View Report. This takes that data, the same data, and it quickly gives you a nice little screen representation, and it's dynamic, so it will change here as you click around. It's a very, very nice, very quick, easy way to see some of your data in a nice graphical representation. And I can take this a little bit farther, and I can now do a dashboard. And if I look at performance point dashboards, you can create any number of dashboards, and in this case, I only have one report on my dashboard. You could have pretty much any number of different reports showing up on your dashboard, but in this case, I have one report, and it's, again, it will change as you click in it, and you can go down into the subcategories and look at all the different little items inside. So you can get really detailed breakdown of information here, just to, as you quickly go through and click around. It's a very, very nice, powerful feature. And again, along with that, SSRS reports, that again is another feature set. It's available. Again, it's a bit of a separate installation piece for the on-premise version, but SSRS reports, it's also available as part of this. Okay, so I'm just going to make sure. Looks like we're going to keep going here. We're getting short on time. So Office 365. So you've heard it. It's Office 365. It's referred to as the cloud. It's referred to as online. We did a quick demo of that. Some of the biggest features involved. How do you pay for that? That is a per user system. It comes in many, many different levels, anywhere from $5 to $20, $25 a month per user. If you have 300 users, you don't have to have all 300 users at the $20 a month level. You can have 20 users at the $5 a month and 30 users at a higher level. It all depends on who needs what features and what sort of level of access. That's kind of the nice piece about this. You can really tailor the cloud environment to what you need in your environment. There's no upfront costs. There's no hardware or software to buy. So it's just basically a subscription type service. Everything works in the cloud. It's a very fast site creation process. Things get provisioned within just a few minutes inside of the cloud. Microsoft is doing continuous upgrades to this. So I can't even tell you how often I've opened up the cloud and, oh, hey, something's changed. The ribbons changed. The menus have changed. It looks different. They are continually upgrading and continually changing this environment. So don't be surprised if one day, a menu's changed or something has been added or whatever. Minimal downtime. They claim, 99.9% uptime. I'm not going to say 100%, but I actually haven't experienced any actual downtime with it yet myself. Available anywhere. It's in the cloud, so it is available pretty much anywhere. So if you have a roaming Salesforce anywhere, they can easily access that data anywhere they are on the road. And virtually error-free, again, I want to say 99.9. I've never actually experienced errors. Every now and then they put up a little notice saying, hey, we've got a bug or something, but they're working on it, and they're continually working on things in the background. So it's a very stable product. It's not as customizable as necessarily you might expect. So this is the challenge to consider. So there might be the odd feature here inside of the cloud that, hey, I wish it could do this, and maybe that feature just isn't available on the cloud, and that's one of the drawbacks. So knowing what you kind of need to be able to do in the future will help determine whether Office 365 is going to work for you. It does come with, the whole Office set, so depending on, again, your account level here, you'll be having the copies of Word, Excel, PowerPoint, all these nice Office tools in your set, and again, it works on browsers, so it works on pretty much any mobile device that you have. SharePoint 2013 on-premise. It's actually a combination. There's 3 versions here available. So there's Foundation, Standard, and Enterprise. The Foundation version is free, and just because it's free, don't think that it's not for you. We actually have many clients on the Foundation version. They use it every day. It's a powerful tool. It has a lot of features. It may not have all the features you need, but it's a great starter process for an on-prem farm. What you do need to have a copy of Windows Server 2012 and SQL Server. Recommended to have them all on one server. I certainly recommend virtualizing your environment and having as much power as you can behind the scenes, but I have seen it where, especially in a test environment or something, you could put it all on one box if you really wanted to. The per cal and per server pricing, it really ranges, and I don't have necessarily fixed numbers, but you're probably looking in the range of roughly $10,000 for something that has a service level agreement. If you start going with an enterprise version, standard would be a little less, and again, the foundation version is free. What they do is they charge you for the outright license for the SharePoint product, which is roughly around $8,500, and then they charge you for the standard licensing cal, and they want you to have a minimum of 5 cals, and those are roughly around $150 a cal. The enterprise cals, what they do is they build that on top of the standard cal, which is another about $150. So by the time you purchase all of it together and hit the minimums, you're roughly looking at about a $10,000 small farm enterprise system. It is highly customizable. That is the one really nice feature of the on-premise version. You have to realize there's going to be a lot of overhead here. There's a lot of server configuration, a lot of maintenance, a lot of server work. But if you have the infrastructure and you have the staff, or you are comfortable with that type of environment, and you want to keep your data in-house and secure on your own premise, this really has the power. It really can do just about anything. Developers have the ability to go back in the behind the scenes in the code and create web parts and different things that can really enhance. It can pull your third-party data. So maybe you have data stuck in a SQL server. Maybe you have GP data sitting on your SQL box, and you want to start bringing that forward into SharePoint and share it maybe in reports or whatever, maybe even in your BI farm. That's where it's really customizable, and it's expandable. Again, so if you notice that it's not running as fast as it should, there's delays in the page rendering, some of your search results are slow, you can actually add servers to the farm very easily and make this thing much more powerful, so it'll be much faster. And here's a quick little look. This is just kind of an example. I'm not a technical document here, but a small farm layout inside this little blue square at the top, you would end up having one front-end server, one application server, and your database server. Again, you could have it all in one box. It's really not recommended, but for a really small environment, you probably want to have at least those 3 servers so that you have a pretty good uptime environment. Off to the right in the little purple box is the Office Web App Server. So if you want some of those additional features like that pop-up preview window of the Office Web Apps, that has to be installed on a separate server in the background. At the bottom is the standard layout. This is a web front end. You'll have 2 web front ends. Maybe they'll be load balanced. There'll be a search server, an application server, and a database. That's a little more robust farm. This is almost the recommended way to have a really good, fast environment for a mid-size business. Okay, SharePoint 2016 and beyond. So the on-premise version of SharePoint 2016 is expected in the spring. There is no direct upgrade if you have a previous version of SharePoint, so you have to basically be upgraded to 2013 and then upgrade from 2013. Notice I'm talking on-premise because the Office 365 one is continually updating the product, so there really isn't any new versions of that coming out. Those always are being updated. More hybrid features in the 2016. So again, the search system is starting to come across in the hybrid model. Things like Cortana and Delve. If you've used Windows 10 at all and you see that Cortana is embedded in your Windows 10, Delve, again, it's more of a system where it puts all of your frequently used documents in a nice little display. The search system is starting to crawl these things and is starting to crawl your content, and look in the future for Cortana and Delve and things like that to start working with your SharePoint search engines and getting that data as well. So when you say, hey, Cortana, up pops Cortana and it will search your SharePoint files. So that's a really nice feature that's coming. Look for Microsoft to push and go forward with that. Thresholds increased, file size limits increased. That's a 2016 thing. That's one of the drawbacks right now. Some of the thresholds people are hitting very quickly. So 2016 has been recognized with that, and they're increasing these limits to make it a little easier for some companies. Fast site creation, they've really sped the time up that it takes to create some of these sites. They're increasing the patching levels so that now you don't have to be down for an entire weekend or hours at a time while you're doing patching. And then also the Office 365 interface. You can see it's already pretty close to the same. They're pushing it to be even more like the Office 365 experience so that your on-premise version really looks identical to the Office 365 one. So next steps. This is my last slide. So here's the next steps. Where do you go from here? We've given you some information, try to highlight some of the key things. Selection of SharePoint is the hardest part. If you still have questions, which you probably do, certainly engage us, ask us. We can try and direct you. Everybody's situation is going to be unique. I don't want to say everybody should be on-prem, and I don't want to say everybody should be in the cloud. It really depends on what you have existing, what your infrastructure is, what what are your needs, what do you need to do with it. Installation configuration, that's going to be the next part. If it's a cloud environment that you choose, there is a little bit of setup, but it's a pretty simple situation, but there is some configuration steps you need to go through. On-premise, there is a lot of things that you need to go through. It's not just a simple task. I've seen many farms, they jump right in, they install SharePoint, and 6 months later they realize, hey, we did this wrong and we've got to start backing some of this stuff out. Site design, planning, customization. One thing I really didn't talk about was security. SharePoint is full of security. So planning your site design and your layouts, it's very important to make sure that some of these things are locked down and secure. Maybe you have a financial site and you want that locked down from your general users. You need to make sure that your design is going to stand up to that, especially when you look at the search. Search is very powerful. It could all of a sudden start showing some financial data to people you don't want to see that financial data. So your site design, planning, it's very important. And finally, user adoption. Maybe you go and you create this whole SharePoint farm and then, hey, I can't get anybody to use it because they're scared of it. They're looking at it and I don't know what to do. I don't want to break it. Go through, do some train the trainer if you need us to help you with getting used to the system and learn some of these tasks and learn how to create lists and libraries, and another thing we didn't talk about was content types, how to create these things in the background so that your users are comfortable using SharePoint. It's one of those things that we can certainly help you with. Okay, and the final, if there's any questions, if we have a couple of minutes for some questions, Mike, please contact us. Let Kevin Dwyer know you have any questions, and we'll certainly be happy to help.
Perfect. Yeah, we did have some questions. So before an hour, we'll get through as many as we can. So the first was, could you explain what a CAL is in regards to pricing?
Sure. It's actually really it's per server. So between the way Microsoft does it, they either do it, in some cases it's per user, per server, or per processor. So they kind of break it all down. It's just their way of doing it. So.
Okay, perfect. So another one we have here is, how does SharePoint act on mobile devices?
Good question. So half of it is depending on the page content. So there's so many pages and so many things that you can put on these pages. If you've added web parts and things like that to the pages, it depends on what is on each individual page. In general, it's very, very customizable. So it should work on most mobile devices just fine. The problem there is depending on whatever is on those individual pages, like a web part, whoever's created these web parts, they may or may not be responsive to change based on the screen size. So let's just say SharePoint does work on all mobile devices, but depending on which pages and what's on those pages, you may get a different experience.
Great, thank you. So we have another one here is, can I link to existing folder structure? Example is trying to connect to a company network drive in SharePoint.
Yeah, another great question. So yes and no. The search engine is very capable of crawling that data and exposing it inside of SharePoint. That's, again, one more of these search features. So search is not limited to just what is found locally inside of SharePoint. Search is actually capable of looking at data in really anywhere. So it can look in your network systems, it can look in external party data. It really isn't limited anymore.
Great. We have another one here is, how did you set preview? And I believe this one was submitted when you were covering the previewing of those documents and searching for SharePoint.
How did I set preview? Trying to think of what that one is referencing.
Okay, yeah, no worries. Yeah, if Angela, I think, was the one who submitted that. So if you wanted to add any more clarification, we can address that afterwards. So we'll go on to the next one here. So during upgrades, will Office 365 be down, such as SharePoint?
No, I would not expect at any time. So Microsoft's always patching and upgrading that Office 365 environment. Again, they claim 99.9% uptime. So you can read the Microsoft blogs on that, but they claim that you will not experience downtime.
Okay, great. And I think we have time for maybe one more before we hop off here. So I think this had to do with the Foundation series. Is Foundation going away in 2016?
Great question. As far as I know, so far what I've heard, yes. Foundation may not be available anymore in the 2016 series. That's subject to change, but at this point, I don't see it in the preview versions.
Okay, well, perfect. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so that means that, yeah, 2013 is the way to go for right now. And again, 2016, even though it's coming out, the core engine, I won't say has changed all that much. So 2013 is still a very powerful system. I don't see that just because the Foundation version isn't going to support the Foundation product, I don't see that it should deter most people.
Great. So we did hit the end of the hour here. So for those that we didn't get to your question, don't worry, we did get them, and I'll pass them all on to Jeff afterwards, and we will reach out to you after the webinar with all the answers. And in addition, we'll be sending out a follow-up email tomorrow that will contain a link for the recording of the webinar in case you missed anything or wanted to rewatch something from today's presentation. And yeah, if any later questions do come up, please feel free to reach out to Kevin or Jeff or myself, and we can link up with the correct information on that. And on behalf of everyone at Interdyne BMI, we just wanted to thank you for your attendance and have a great rest of your day. Thanks, guys.